Ever thought your product could be a huge hit in another country? But then, that feeling of being totally overwhelmed kicks in? Well, what if I told you there's a government program designed specifically to help you make that leap? Today, we're diving deep into the State Trade Expansion Program, or, as you'll hear me call it, STEP. Okay, so you've got this amazing product. You know there's a whole world of customers out there just waiting for it. But something's holding you back, right? Is it the cost, the mind-boggling complexity, or just the not knowing where to even start? Believe me, you're not alone. It's a super common story for small businesses. And look, these hurdles, they are so real. I mean, just attending an international trade show can cost a fortune. And finding those first customers overseas, it can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack. And that's all before you even start thinking about website translation, crazy international regulations, and, oh man, the logistics headaches. Yeah, it's enough to make anyone just say, you know what, maybe later. But what if you had a co-pilot for that whole journey? Imagine a program that's literally designed to help you navigate all those challenges and even help cover a lot of the costs. Well, that's exactly what the State Trade Expansion Program is all about. So what is STEP really? At its heart, it's a federal grant program. Pretty simple. The U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, gives money to individual states. Then the states turn around and use that exact money to give financial awards to small businesses. Yeah, businesses just like yours, to help you kickstart or even expand your international sales. So, who's the powerhouse behind this whole thing? It's the U.S. Small Business Administration. That means you've got the full weight and resources of the federal government backing this up, which gives it some serious credibility. And listen, this isn't some brand new, untested idea. This program has been successfully helping businesses for more than a decade. And the results? Honestly, they're pretty impressive. STEP has awarded over $215 million to more than 13,000 small businesses. But get this. This is the part that blows my mind. For every single dollar the program invests in a business, it generates an average of $43 in new export sales. 43. That's just a massive return on investment. It really de-risks that first big step and connects you with the expertise you need to actually succeed. Okay, so what's the whole point of the program? What are its main goals? It really boils down to three simple things. First, get more small businesses exporting. Second, grow the total dollar value of all those exports. And third, help businesses just like you break into totally new international markets. That's it. All right, so we get what it is and why it exists. Now for the big question. How does it actually work? Like, how does that federal money get from Washington, D.C. all the way into your business's bank account? It's actually surprisingly simple. It's basically a two-step process. Step 1, the SBA gives grant money to the individual states and territories. Step 2, those state agencies, like a state's trade office or its economic development center, then pass that funding directly to the businesses in their state that apply and, of course, qualify. Okay, before we get too deep, let's talk about eligibility. Could this even be for you? These are the big, general federal rules. So you've got to be a for-profit U.S. small business. You need to have been in business for at least 1 year, and your product or service has to have at least 51% U.S. content. Now, this last one is super important. Since a lot of these grants are reimbursements, you need to have the cash on hand to cover the costs first, and then you get paid back. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting and, practical. The federal government sets the main rules, but then each state gets to run its own version of the STEP program. So to really see how this all works in the real world, we're going to look at two completely different examples, Maine and Florida. So on one side, you've got Maine's International Trade Center, and on the other, Florida's Small Business Development Center. These are the agencies running the show in their states. Let's dig in and see how their different styles really cater to the businesses they serve. And right away, you can see just how different these programs can be. Maine, for instance, offers these larger grants that are reimbursement only, and they're often focused on big things like trade shows. But then you look at Florida, and it's a totally different story. They've got a wider range of smaller grants. Some even have direct payment options, which means they could pay a vendor for you. And they also require businesses to be a bit more established, at least 2 years old. Let's zoom in on Maine's model for a second. It's a classic reimbursement system. So picture this. You get a grant to go to a huge trade show in Germany. You pay for everything yourself first, the booth, the flights, everything. Then, after the show is over, you submit all your receipts and boom, you get 75% of those approved costs paid right back to you.
So let's do the math real quick. Say you want to get that $5,000 reimbursement. That means you'd need to spend at least $6,700 on your trip. The grant covers the $5,000. In your company's part, they call it the match, is that leftover $1,700. You can see how that suddenly makes a huge international trip feel way more doable, right?
And the process in Maine is super clear. It's laid out in just 5 steps. First, you check your eligibility. Then you apply for the award, and this is important, you do it before the event. Then you get approved, you go to your project, and finally, you submit all your paperwork to get reimbursed. It's a really clear roadmap from A to Z.
All right, now let's fly south to Florida because they do things quite differently. Instead of having one big general grant, they offer more of a menu of very specific grants. Each one is tailored for a different exporting need. So it doesn't matter if you're brand new to this or you're already exporting and just want to expand. And I mean, just look at this variety. You can get a heavily subsidized export marketing plan to figure out your whole strategy. You can get grants to translate and localize your website, for virtual matchmaking to find partners, or for good old-fashioned travel to trade shows. It's much more of an a la carte system where you pick what you need.
So let's just compare 2 of these to see what I mean. The export marketing plan, that's perfect if you're just starting out and you need a solid roadmap. An expert actually helps you figure out the best markets to target. But the matchmaker service, that's for businesses that already have a strategy and are ready to get in front of real potential buyers. See? 2 different grants for 2 totally different stages of your exporting journey.
Okay, so we've seen the huge potential here. We've seen how it can work in a couple of different states. The big question now is, what do you do next? How do you actually take that first step?
All right, listen up because this is your single most important takeaway. The SBA has a directory of every single state and territory that gets STEP funding. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to go to that directory, find the contact person for your state, and just start the conversation. And please, please remember this. Your state's program is going to be unique. It's going to have its own application, its own deadlines, its own priorities for the kinds of projects it wants to fund. The examples from Maine and Florida just give you a taste, right? All the real specific details for your business are going to come from your local contact. So, we've covered a ton of ground today, but it really all boils down to this one simple thing. The support is out there, the funding is available, and somewhere out there, your next international customer is just waiting for you to find them. So the only question left is, what's your first move going to be?